Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Lauren, and today I'm talking about anger. Anger as one of the three pieces that I believe are at the core of chronic fatigue, which are shame, grief, and anger. So talking about the anger piece, but I do go into each one of those in sort of a broad sweep way, but then go into anger, talking about the somatics and how we move it. But I recorded this video about a month ago, and yes, I'm very behind. As I was editing the video, I felt the pull to clarify and address a little bit of what we are seeing in the world today, because in the last month, as all of you probably already know, we've seen a lot of anger, violence, and just disturbing things. Not that we haven't been for years, because we have, but there's been a lot of it. A lot of big things in the news, acts of violence. And this to me is unconscious anger and rage being projected out. And this is ultimately, in my mind, what we are working to prevent in this healing process, where we're trying to move unconscious energy to conscious energy so that we can heal it and move it constructively. So in this video, I talk about how we're trying to move physical symptoms to emotions so that we can heal it. But I talk about, like, we're trying to feel angry. We want to feel the anger. And I just want to make it clear, I hope that it already is clear, but I just want to make it extra clear that what I mean when I say that is that we want to bring it to the emotion so that we can move it productively, constructively. We can alchemize it with somatic practices, with pushing air and energy through hitting beds and pillows, through screaming by ourselves, by working with it in and for ourselves, within ourselves, for ourselves, with no one else involved. It's a self-alchemy energy. Of course, working with a coach or therapist can also be part of the picture, but it's about moving it constructively so that it doesn't come out destructively. To me, this is how we heal this planet, is by each of us doing this work. And that's why I know all of you are here, because you are doing that work. And I think every one of us increasing our frequency by allowing these lower frequency energies to move through us by true alchemy, by moving it somatically and with our throat chakra and doing this healing work with ourselves. This is how we heal the planet, in my view, in my belief. Every one of us that does this work is helping to raise the frequency of the planet. And there's just so much devastation and destruction happening in the world and so much chaos. And I think to me, this is where we find self-empowerment, is by doing this work with ourselves. And that's how we can prevent energies going outside of us, projecting and ending in tragic things. And I know that on this channel, I know we tend to be internalizers, where the energy is suppressed. And that's why I'm encouraging the feeling of anger. We're trying to get angry, but anger as an alchemizing energy, not as I'm going to be angry so I can project it out there. No, I'm not saying that at all. I think you all know that. We're bringing up anger so we can alchemize it, so we can do inner child work, an inner teenager, and let her or him be angry inside of our mind and do that spiritual and energetic alchemy. When we have chronic fatigue, our tendency is more towards that suppression. So that's why I'm talking about bringing up anger. So I just wanted to make that clear if it wasn't already, but I felt important because of the times we're living in, and there's so much anger and fear and violence and destruction out there. I think this is the most empowering work that we can do. So I'm sending you all so much love in this chaotic environment we're in right now. I truly believe that there is a new world in front of us, and the more of us that do this work are encouraging that to happen. That's my belief. So take good care, and on to the video. Today, I am talking about anger as one of the three big energies that we're working with to heal chronic fatigue and chronic illnesses that are related to attachment trauma and CPTSD, developmental trauma, however you want to refer to it. But the three main energies, shame, anger, and grief, these are the three big emotional energies that we need to learn how to work with. There are other ones too, disgust and guilt, and there are other ones for sure. But these are the three big ones, the three big kahunas. Shame being the most visible and the one causing the fatigue is one way to think about it, causing the fear and the fight, flight, freeze, the nervous system response. And the anger and the grief are the core energies underneath and the ones that we use to heal the shame, that we move through to heal the shame. And today I'm talking about anger in that context and some of the somatic aspects of anger that is deeply repressed and suppressed in the body. Anger is arguably the energy that we have to learn how to love in this process and learn how to move. Anger is trapped. When we have chronic fatigue, anger is trapped. When we have depression, anger is trapped. It's not only trapped, it's oppressed. Have you ever noticed that you feel trapped in your life? Have you ever noticed that feeling trapped is a prominent experience in your life? If you have chronic fatigue, if you have depression, if you have chronic symptoms related to developmental trauma, have you ever noticed that you feel trapped? There's some element of powerlessness and trappedness and feeling imprisoned. The word trapped doesn't have to resonate, but it's a feeling of not being able to move. That no matter what I do, I can't get out of this space. I can't change this. I can't get this thing that I want and I need. I can't achieve this thing. I can't get it. Nothing works. I'm trapped. I'm trapped. I'm trapped. That is such a prominent part of having this illness and having CPTSD, having attachment trauma, is that feeling of trappedness and pointlessness. Well, what is trappedness? Feeling trapped is powerlessness. Feeling powerless is the suppressed version of power. It is power that is being oppressed, suppressed, pushed down, confined, tight, constricted, that can't move. Anger is the energy in our body that we use to do, to change, to protect ourselves, to go outwards, to expand. Anger is the energy in our body that gives us energy, that gives us vitality. It is the upward energy. It moves up. Anger is that energy, and it comes from your solar plexus, from that upper stomach energy. I like to think of your kidneys or your adrenals are like two jetpacks propelling you forward. And then the solar plexus is like the energy that drives you forward, that like pulls you forward, that is like, I am being pulled to do something from my authenticity. And so, it affects all the chakras, but it's kind of centered in that space, in your stomach space. It's very common to have gut symptoms as a result of suppressed anger. Suppressed anger can come in so many types of physical illnesses and symptoms. Gut issues are a big one. Another one is any kind of inflammation. If there is any inflammation-related chronic symptom, there's anger involved. It's suppressed anger. It's anger that has never been spoken, never been heard, never been seen, never been validated, never been met. And what we get programmed in early life is that energy is pointless. It's pointless to be angry. It's pointless to do something. It's pointless to even try. It becomes this massive, massive weight. Oh my God, the heaviness that is suppressed anger is so heavy. I've described this before, but it feels like gravity is so much stronger for you than for everybody else. It feels like you're being pulled to the floor, pulled to the bed. And there's an apathy. There's an apathy to it. There's a despair. And those are both more symptoms of suppressed, oppressed, repressed, whatever word resonates, anger. So how I conceptualize chronic fatigue is the emotional energy that's consuming all of your energy is shame. Shame is the one that's activating your nervous system. It's the one that's causing fight or flight. It's the one that's causing shutdown. It's the one that's causing all the nervous system dysregulation. It's the one causing the hypervigilance, the mental exhaustion, the dissociation from the body. It is like shame is the big distracting energy that we're carrying all the time, and it's creating all of these symptoms, and it's exhausting the system. It's exhausting the system. I said distractor because shame is not a core emotion. The core emotions under shame are grief and anger. So what we're doing on this whole process is we're healing shame. And if you don't resonate with the word shame, it's healing your sense of self. It's the sense of self that you are good, The idea that you are good. Shame is the energy of you are bad. Or it's the fear that's, am I bad? Am I bad? Am I bad? Am I bad? And it's like happening a million times a day all over the place. Am I good or am I bad? And I don't know, because there's a deep, deep part of all of us that knows we're good, but there has been so much messaging programmed in when we were little that I am bad. And it doesn't have to be direct. You don't have to be directly told you're bad. If you just didn't get validation, if there was an emotionally or physically absent parent, or if there was someone who was shaming you directly, any of those scenarios can create shame, because it's like, what are we supposed to do with that? What are we supposed to do with the adults that make up our entire world, that we look up to more than anything, that are our protectors, that are our everything, our caretakers, don't see us, or don't see us as valuable, or don't look at us with love, don't give us all the signals that we need as attachment-oriented creatures, then how are we supposed to make sense of that when we're 2, 3, 4, 5? It's about us. It's my fault. It's my fault. I must be bad. I must be bad. That's the shame. And it pervades every area of your life. When you've got chronic fatigue, the shame mountain is big, but it's healable. It's absolutely healable. And so how do we heal shame? The way I now conceptualize it is like, shame is that vibrating energy that's consuming all of the vitality in our body. It's exhausting. We've got all these places of tightness, of bracing, that are like, when am I going to get hit next? When am I going to get the message again that I'm bad, that I'm wrong, that I'm the problem? When am I going to get that message again? There's a holding of the breath, there's constriction in all of our muscles and fascia all over the body that we can't even feel anymore. Eventually, our nervous system and our body has to numb from that. We can't feel the physical pain that's in our body all the time. It would not be adaptive. So what happens is we get this atrophying that happens between the brain and the body to help us get through life and keep going, even though the pain is always there. So we get this dissociation. So shame is that energy that is like consuming all the vitality, and it's causing the fatigue. But it's not a core emotion, as I said. It's a distractor emotion. And that doesn't mean it's not true. Shame is the energy we want to work with directly. And I have other videos on shame. And I'm sure I'll talk more about it in the future, because it's the thing. It's like the big thing. But how do we move shame? Because shame and guilt, I think of guilt differently, but they're these energies that you can't move them by themselves. they sit. It's like, we've got to get to one of the core emotions. And that doesn't mean we're bypassing. It means we have to sit in the shame. And there's so many things I could go into here. Validation is one example of something that we need to get to start to rewire that shame, to de-shame the energies and the way that our brain is wired, to have a relationship with somebody, like having a coach, a therapist, anywhere you can get validation of who you are, where it will actually sink in. Watching videos, gaining knowledge. We need the generalized knowledge to de-shame things, because it's like, oh, you don't even know me and you're saying this, and you know this about me? Okay, I can't be that weird. This has to be a universal thing. That is de-shaming in itself. So listening, learning about trauma, about how it shows up in the body, about shame, and then having one-on-one validation of well, of course you felt like that. And putting a truth lens on whatever you experienced and however you responded, and who you are as a person, and what they see in you, and having that mirror that you never had before. That is one way we can start to de-shame the wiring. Our brain is wired for shame. It's wired to blame everything on us and have the responsibility of everything on us. Again, there's so many physical symptoms that can come along with this. But what are the core energies underneath? There's grief and anger. Grief is the energy that pours out the shame. It's the dumping out of shame. It's the releasing of shame. It's the grieving of the self. That's the release of shame. How do we release shame? We grieve ourselves. And what does that look like? It's these moments where we see something that we blamed on ourselves that didn't belong to us. Somehow we're able to move in all of the process, and I can't go into all the details right now, but there's some way that suddenly we can see in a way that we've never seen before. Oh my God, it's not my fault. It's not me. It was It was them. They let me down. I was disappointed in them. That's another way to think of shame, is that it's disappointment in someone else that was flipped around and turned on yourself. Somebody, or parents usually, were disappointing us. And when I say disappointment, it's a pretty profound disappointment. It's like it's an attachment need disappointment. They're not there for you in the way you need, and I internalize it as my fault. So we've got to reverse that and move the energy outside of us, not to blame, but to shift it back to where the responsibility belongs. It never belonged to you, because this is a child self talking. Anytime we're in this self-blame loop, it's always an inner child speaking. It's not your adult self. It feels like it, but it's not. It always is a wounded inner child speaking. And this takes time, and it's like all these small moments, there are big moments of release, of grieving the self. It's a huge process, grieving the self, mourning the self. It's emptying out that shame. It's like one of the huge overarching things that we're doing in this process is grieving the self. What I have carried, what I have believed to be true for so long in that poor self that was blamed for things that were never his or her fault. That grief, that crying out, that releasing, it's like the emptying out. That is the release of shame. Now, anger, I think of as the alchemizer of shame. It's like the burning away of shame. And we need both. We need to work with both in this process to get rid of shame. And you don't have to do both at the same time. You just have to do both at some point. Everybody's different in whether grief or anger is more accessible. But I've found that for most people with chronic fatigue, anger is very inaccessible. There might be some level of anger that's so accessible, it's like a constant. It's like I'm always irritated, or I'm always frustrated, or like there's a surface level anger that's kind of always there, but it's never getting to the deep rage. Because rage is the suppression of self. It comes from the suppression of self. The suppression of self is that weight. The suppression of self comes from shame. Shame creates a suppressing of who you are, of your authenticity, because we feel like we're not okay as I am. I have to change. I have to keep fixing. I have to keep doing things. There are all these things that I've learned that I have to do in order to be approved of in the world. And yet I'm still not getting what I need. A lot of times it's what the reality feels like, because the illness can create that reality and put it in our face in a really profound way. But anger is the alchemizer of shame. And what I mean by that, it burns it away, because it's like the rising up of self energy. Anger and rage. There is so much rage because there is so much self-suppression that's happening, because there are so many parts of us that we believe are not okay. And that creates self-suppression. And self-suppression is suppression of our authenticity, and that cannot stay. That energy creates rage. Rage is that rising up of no. I will not do this anymore. I will not keep this in anymore. Hear me effing roar. The screams that come from rage. So rage can be moved through screaming. And so screaming might be a big part of your healing journey, but that's not always accessible. So I'm trying to give an overview. It's very challenging because there's so many things to talk about and so many like offshoots I want to go on. But I'm trying to give an overview today in case this resonates, because everybody kind of talks about it differently. And this is the way, from my experience in my own healing journey and talking to many people over their healing journeys as well, the way I see it is with this anger is the alchemizer. It's the burning away, because it's reclaiming self energy. The grief is the mourning of self, that the loss. It's mourning the loss of the self that was oppressed, that had to be oppressed because of the meaning that we were being given for yourself in your life, the meaning you were taking to be about yourself, the mourning for the self that has been denied, suppressed, blamed, ridiculed, criticized. That grief is the pouring out of that energy, mourning of the time that was lost, the selfhood that was lost, the experiences lost, because we were carrying this energy for so many years and this blame that didn't belong. Anger and rage is the rising up of, no, I will not do this anymore. I will not sacrifice myself anymore. This is a gift of this illness, is it takes us to our knees. And whatever illness you're dealing with, if it's CPTSD related, there's a way in which it takes you to your knees and it makes you question everything. It backs you into a corner. The way I like to think about it is it's like trying to make you mad. It's trying to get you to feel that anger. The part of us that loves us more than anyone else is trying to get us angry, because anger is the energy that is, I claim myself. I matter too. Because how we're programmed when we have attachment trauma and we're internalizers and we're empaths, the way we've been programmed is other first. Other first. Always other first. And there are a million ways that we do this. It doesn't have to be physical, it's energetic. We're putting others first. It's one reason why isolation can be a key part of the healing journey, because we've got to shut out all the other people so that we can finally focus on ourselves. Because as long as other people are around, that exhausting self-abandonment that is unconscious is running. And it gets so confusing and entangled, and there's shame that you're dealing with. And it's like all these energies are just bombarding. And sometimes it takes a period of isolation. I have a video on cocooning and how important it is. And this is one of the reasons. It's because we're programmed to put other first. Well, how could we possibly do that? How could we constantly put other people first? By oppressing our own anger, by suppressing anger. We've been doing it our whole life, and it's so easy we don't even know we're doing it. Well, I shouldn't say it's easy, because it consumes a tremendous amount of energy. Anger and rage are the vitality. There's this huge energy in our body that's waiting to come out, that wants to come out, and it's being held down. And imagine how much pressure and force has to be pushing down to keep rage in. And over the life, the rage builds and builds and builds. This is why chronic fatigue takes a while to show up many times, because it's like the rage is building and we don't realize it. It doesn't feel like rage, just to clarify. It doesn't feel like rage. It feels like fatigue, because it's happening before our conscious mind even recognizes it as anger. When we recognize what's here, it's just fatigue. It's just exhaustion. It's just heaviness. That heaviness is the result of the rage being just pushed down. And just imagine the force that has to be there. It's so strong. It believes this is life and death. That's why it's so strong. That energy, that part that's holding, and it's multiple parts usually, that these protector parts, we need multiple to keep it in and to keep us from recognizing it. It's so powerful. It takes all of our energy. And how does it do that? Well, a prominent way is through shame. Shame is one of the energies that holds the anger in. Shame and fear. And so when you have chronic symptoms that are related to fear, like anxiety, like nervous system dysregulation, like adrenal fatigue, these are usually fear of anger. It's fear of our own anger. Now, I realize that when I say things like that, it might penetrate, but it might not. And it depends on where you are in the process and what your system is ready to receive at that time. And believe me, this did not hit or resonate for me for a long time. And it's because we have such incredible, brilliant, effective parts that are protecting us from feeling that. But I will tell you, after all my own personal work, through my own personal journey, and so much fight against this energy, not purposeful, but so much fight against it, as well as working with many other people in their healing journey, it's anger. It's anger. It's anger that is repressed. It's fear of our own anger. So it's coming up as fear, and it's got that vibration, because rage has a vibration. It's a powerful vibration. And in order to keep that in, we need an energy that matches it. A parallel energy to rage is terror. We need terror, that intense vibration, to keep the rage vibration from coming up. We innately believe that our rage will hurt someone, will kill someone, that the power of our rage will either get someone else killed or ourselves killed. Someone will die. It becomes super existential. This rage terror dynamic becomes super existential. And it's why, if you ever have thoughts of, I don't want to be here anymore, thoughts about death, thoughts of death being better than life, thoughts of I don't want to be here, this is a huge piece of this dynamic. It's the force of I have so much rage and I'm terrified to feel it and I'm trapped. And I'm trapped in it. I'm trapped in this miserable, heavy, imprisoning experience and I can't get out. Death sounds like a sweet relief. It does sound like that. When you're in that place, I know it well. When you're in that place, it's just like, what's the point? Nothing I do will get me out. It feels endless. It feels pointless. It feels like, why? Why stay here when I can't change anything, when I'm trapped in this unbelievable misery? And in that place, I don't know about you, but I can't access anger. If I can, it's complete, just like it's contempt or it's apathy, which is anger, even though it doesn't feel like it. Apathy is anger that's not coming through cleanly. It's disdain. It's contempt. Those are the energies of anger that come up when we're in these really dark, dark spaces. So that feeling of not wanting to be here anymore, it's all trapped anger. It's anger that is just, there's so much in there and it doesn't believe it can come out. Those parts, those defenses are so strong. And the thing is that's confusing is that it doesn't feel like that idea of I'm terrified of my own anger, it just doesn't resonate in these moments. Or even if it does, it's like, so what? I can't do anything about it. Just because I know that doesn't mean I can move it. A moment of real breakthrough for me was the realization that there's a part of me that would rather die than be angry. There's a part of me that it would rather die than be me in full. Big, powerful, loud, silly, creative, vulnerable, and have needs. That's really the one that I realized at that moment that started getting me out of that darkness, was realizing I have a protective part that would rather me die than have needs. I would rather die than have needs. Not all of me, but that part. And that part is what's super loud in these dark spaces. Just let that sink in and question if you've ever had these energies and these thoughts and these periods of depression of not wanting to be here anymore. Does that resonate at all? Could it be that there's a part of you that would rather die than have needs? And that's super, super key. And that's the thread to take out, because then it takes us to the needs. So what is happening in this moment? Why this dark period has come up? A lot of times it's because I'm trying to live my authentic self. I'm trying to have needs. I'm trying to take up more space. I'm trying to set boundaries. I'm trying to do things that my brain is programmed to believe you are not allowed to do. And this part comes in and it brings this incredible dark cloak and cloud. It's like it casts a spell over my whole being and psyche that's like, no, go to sleep. I'm going to put you in fatigue, in darkness, in misery, in suffering, pointlessness, because it'll keep you down. It's down, girl, down. You can't have needs. No, shh. We're not supposed to do that. That part is trying to protect me because it still believes I'm a little girl that needs protecting. This is why parts work is so powerful. Because it's parts like this that come in and think that they have to be doing this because it's protecting us from being rejected, from feeling in abyss, which is what happens in attachment ruptures, where like we reach or we need and there's no one there. They've studied this, and this is like there's this abyss feeling that comes over the body and the mind. It's like floating in outer space without a tether. It's like floating out to sea with nothing. Nothing to see, nothing to grab onto, nothing to go towards. I'm just lost. I'm floating in eternity. That is worse for the brain and body than death itself, which is another reason why this existential question comes up and these thoughts of not wanting to be here, because it feels like a better option than that abyssness, than that never-ending suffering. The never-ending suffering is worse than death in the human brain. And so that's why these existential thoughts come up. But it all comes back down to anger. Is all anger. If we can find ways to start to move that anger. So it's a huge moment to be able to realize there's a part of me that feels this way. There's a part of me that would rather die than have this feeling and be stuck in this energy and have needs, because that creates a little distance from it. What happens when we're in these energies is we're completely consumed by them. We're completely blended with our wounds because it's so consuming. It's so miserable. And everything feels dark. Everything feels pointless. Everything feels like we don't feel pleasure. We lose our pleasure. We don't find pleasure in anything. It's like, why am I even here? If we can get a little bit of distance, that's the beginning of the end of this energy. Now, I'm not trying to make it sound easy, because it is not. But realizations like that are key, because it's not me. It's not my authentic me. This is a part that's trying to protect me and that thinks I'm a little girl or boy. And then another key is to try to get in touch with the anger. And this is such a big, difficult task that I could make a bajillion more videos about. It's like, how do we move anger? There are so many things to talk about here, but we've got to find a way to move the anger. So a really great way is to start speaking. Start speaking, start talking to somebody, start talking to yourself, start talking to an audio journal, a video journal, your computer, typing. Start talking, start using your throat. This is key in this energy, and it is key in moving anger. And we've got to work with the shame, got to work with the grief, and we've got to work with the anger. And all three are helped by the voice. We need to use the voice in this process. I'm just going to share something that has been working consistently for me every time I do it. If I can get myself to do it, it works. When anger is completely trapped and stuck in my body, and all I feel is like I'm made of lead, and despair and pointlessness, exhaustion. When I'm in those states, I have learned this is anger, even though it doesn't feel anything like anger. It doesn't feel like anger. I promise you it doesn't feel like anger, unless you have an intuitive sense that I've been disconnected from. I've had to learn through experience after experience after experience. I now have this cognitive link now, this knowing this is anger. The only thing I have found, and it's not the only way, I'm just going to share what has worked for me. The only thing that has worked for me is to start walking, listening to angry music, and talking. Those three things at the same time, in combination, moves anger for me consistently. So if you're physically capable to walk, I would suggest starting to walk. But it's not just walking, because I've tried all three of these things on their own, and they don't do the same thing. There's something about the combination of walking. You're moving your body. You're moving your body. Moving your body requires anger energy. So when I'm in these states, these walks start very slowly. Like I am moving at a snail's pace. Just let yourself plod along as slow as you need to go. If you can get yourself to move your hips while you walk, shift them. It's not necessary, but it's helpful. And then turn on some angry music. Now, the music I listen to is my teenage music, the music that I listened to as a teenager. So much suppressed anger and depression in my teenage years. And that our teenager, when we've got suppressed anger, it's like it's our teenager and our 3-year-old that we really want to focus on. Our teenage years are really a repetition of the 3-year-old, just coming up in teenage form. And now chronic fatigue is those energies coming up again. So a good idea is to do whatever we can to channel our teenage energy. So whatever associations you have with your teenage self, see if you can incorporate some of that. Can you embody your teenage self again? Can you be her or him again?
So for me, that means listening to this angry music. Now, sometimes driving works too, because when I was a teenager, I would turn angry music up loud and drive. So if you can't walk, can you drive? But walking, I think, is better. It's moving your energy through the system. It's moving your blood and your muscles and your fascia, your circulating energy and your lymph. That's a big one. So I'll listen to music for a while and then I'll start talking. I'll turn on an audio journal and I will start talking and just letting everything that comes up and all the feelings. And I will tell you, sometimes it takes 30 minutes. Sometimes it takes 2 hours. It doesn't matter how long it takes. What I have found is consistently for me, and you have to find your own thing, but when it's stuck and it will not move, and I can't conceptualize why, I just feel awful and miserable and I can't move it. I do this and then I speak and I just talk and talk and talk and talk as I walk. And by the end of that walk, consistently, my pace picks up. I'm fiery. I am fiery and I'm speaking angrily. I'm pissed and sometimes I'm enraged. Sometimes I need to go in my car and scream, but sometimes I just need to talk really angrily and curse and just let it all out. But that's good because it's coming out. In that process, moving from a lead weight to fire, it's like it's a miracle. So we need to get anger flowing. And a lot of times when we've got chronic fatigue, a lot of times, or adrenal fatigue, there are lots of chronic illnesses or symptoms that mean that we can't exercise. But if walking is accessible, it's a good inroad. You can also do stretching, but I find that's more calming. And with anger, we want something to kind of help move the energy into a more energized state. And walking can be a great way of doing that. The other thing to think about is to find things that use like the bilateral movement that crosses the hemispheres of the brain. Walking, because it goes from right to left to right to left in this methodical way. It has a really powerful effect on our brain and our nervous system, and we can get into sort of a meditative space, and it's calming because of that bilateral movement. But as I'm saying this, please realize that in no way am I trying to offer some simplistic thing to say that this is the answer. I'm just giving a tactical, like a practical example of something that I found has worked for me, coming from someone who anger has been extremely stuck and challenging. And it has either not come out at all or come out in dysfunctional ways as I've started to work with it. And this is a whole process. I'm speaking to times when it's just so stuck and it just feels like you can't access it at all. As I said before, the first step is to be able to identify in your body, oh, this, even though it feels like the opposite of anger, this horrible, heavy, apathetic, depressed feeling is anger, and make that cognitive connection. And you might not be able to do that right away. It might take some passes, it's like some time and experience to have the recognition that certain states are anger, to have that validation in what you find. But you could experiment with this. So when you feel heavy and down, and you could try it as a daily practice. And again, make this your own. It sounds so simple. And honestly, it's been the combination that's been key for me. But I'm also not saying that if I had started this 5 years ago, that it would have worked then. I don't know. I've done lots of walking. I couldn't do walking when I was really sick, but as the chronic fatigue lifted, there are still times when this heaviness, this extreme heaviness that feels very chronic fatigue-like, will come up in these spurts, and it's anger. It's when anger is coming up, and it doesn't seem like there's any reason for me to be angry. There's no logical reason. There's nothing that I can do up here alone, just with my mind, to get out of that state. So it's just a suggestion to try to move anger that's really, it's collapsing. I like the word collapsing because it speaks to that weight that's in the body. And the key is to find a practice or some method that actually gets you angry. So we're not looking for a practice that gets rid of this feeling. We're not trying to get rid of it. We're trying to turn it into emotion. So what's happening in the collapse state is it's not emotion, it's a symptom. What we're trying to do is find some way to move it from the physical to the emotional. Doing that with any emotion, any symptom and emotion, that's the key. That's what I'm talking about in every video on this channel. Because what's happened is that these emotions are so protected and dissociated from, they're showing up as physical symptoms, and we're trying to reverse that process. And so there's never going to be a one size fit all. There's never going to be a one thing that works. Like this always works for this. There are going to be things that tend to help. And like the knowledge that when this happens, I need to move. When anger is here, I've got to move. I have to physically move in some way, plus move my throat. And whether that's screaming or speaking or groaning or growling or moaning, whatever that is, we have to use our throat to move that energy. And then we have to move our body with the anger, because we move anger energy through body. You know, in an ideal scenario for our healthiest version of ourselves, exercising is going to be a big way that we do this. But that's not always accessible when anger is collapsing in the body and making it just a million pounds. The weight is so heavy and exercise just pisses it off. Exercise just aggravates it, just makes it worse, makes the fatigue worse. That's a scenario where we can't exercise to move our anger. It doesn't work. Now you can argue walking is an exercise, but I'm talking about like it can be really slow walking. But really anything that moves the body that's gentle, but also as encouraging of movement as we can do. And then the third piece is trying to channel our 3-year-old or our teenage self, a younger version of us. Another piece to this can be shaking. So another thing that I'll do on my walks is I'll start shaking my hands really vigorously. And you know, to other people, it might just look like I've got a hand cramp, but to be honest, I try to do it when no one else is around. But just shaking my hand really vigorously can move some of the fear. And when I'm listening to angry music, again and again, I've had tears come. And it is that inner child. It is that inner teenager. Depending on where you are, your technique is going to be different. These are just ideas to try. And I want to go back to an earlier point that I was making, that one of the first and most important pieces to all of this is to start unraveling the shame in our minds by getting validation somewhere. It's really key. And I have found that the somatics kind of need to come after. You can do them, but I have found them not to be effectual when there's still so much shame in my wiring, when there's so much self-blame, so much responsibility that I'm holding in my body. I'm like carrying the whole world and the responsibility for everything and blaming myself unconsciously and consciously. These thoughts that come up consciously from the unconscious is what I mean, that I've done this, that I need to do better, that I should be doing better. Like as long as that is such a consuming force, I have found the somatics to be very challenging to actually, well, first of all, to actually do, and then second of all, to be effectual. So that's why, in my experience, a really key part first, maybe before the somatics, is to find that validation piece from videos, from learning, from courses, from coaching, from therapy, from loved ones, whatever you have in your life, and getting that validation of you're not the problem. You never were the problem. The situation that you're in right now, the illness that you have right now, is not your fault. You being isolated, you being like whatever a situation is, because I was talking about the cocoon phase earlier, it's not your fault. Your conscious mind didn't create this. It isn't you. Yes, we can make an argument that the unconscious parts of us are creating this to get us to love those parts. And that's true. But that doesn't mean that it's our fault that we're in this situation, because we had no control. We have no control over our unconscious until we make it conscious. We need to have our experience validated and to know that this is healable. These are normal responses to abnormal circumstance. I'm talking about trauma. This is a normal human way of responding, that every emotion that you have, every feeling, every symptom, everything that's happening in your body has a good reason for being there and for doing this, for creating this, that this is a reenactment of your trauma right now in this illness space is a reenactment of your trauma, and it's bringing up all those things. And it's a complex web to get through. We've got to do parts work and meet all the defenses and help all the defenses move aside so we can get to the inner children and get to the somatics. And we've got to do all three, like we've got to go through all three states. So today I'm talking more about the somatics of anger and rage. And as I've talked about, another piece of rage work is potentially screaming when that's accessible, but it's not always going to be accessible. So it's about just listening. Does this feel accessible now? No? Okay. It's too much. It's too much. No. Okay, maybe later. Just to have the seed in your mind that it's going to come. And then when it comes, you can feel a sense of pride, because it's like the only reason I feel like I can do this now is because I've created enough loving space for me to do it. Enough of non-judgment space for me to scream and not be in a shame spiral after. At the same time, it's okay to be in a shame spiral. The reason you're in a shame spiral, if that happens after you scream, is because that was not allowed. The shame is trying to protect you and saying, don't do that. Remember? Remember? That's not how we survive this world. So no, that's too loud, it's too much, that's too dangerous. Just get back in your box. That's what the shame is trying to do. It feels like a punishment. It's actually a protector part that's trying to take care of you and keep you from being punished from the outside world. It's trying to create an internal punishment to keep you from having an external punishment, which it perceives as worse. All these parts are really working for you and us and me. So I hope this is helpful. I struggle because there's so much like breadth to cover, but there's also so much depth. So it's like, okay, how do I do the breadth and the depth? And when should I do the breadth? And when should I do the depth? So like some videos, I'll just go like really deep on one thing. And then other videos, I'm like sort of trying to cover the broad swaths, like the conceptual swaths, because that's important too. We need both, I think. So if there are particular pieces of this that you would really like me to drill down into deeper, please let me know in the comments. I love when you guys suggest videos for me to make, and I've read some that I'm planning on making. But this one felt really important because I know there are a lot of people right now dealing with depression and dealing with being taken to the brink, being taken to the edge. And I've been with you. I'm just recently coming out of a 4-month space of a lot of just deep darkness and not wanting to be here. Deep depression in a way that I haven't felt in quite a while. And I've talked about disillusionment, but this anger piece is so huge. It's the crux. This is what it is. It's anger, but it's the blocking of anger. It's the anger that's not coming up. It's the defenses against the anger. It's that hitting, like I was talking about, of the rage trying to come up and the terror pushing it down. But it's like we're not feeling either of them. We're just feeling the internal misery and darkness that is created from that. And I've talked to so many people that are going through this, and I've heard about even more. And, there are astrological transits that are representing this. And I say that because it's almost like there's like a wave of people who have been doing this work who are being backed into a corner in a way that is forcing, it's like a forced healing. It's like a this cannot go on. This inside your body right now can't stay. It can't stay for your future. And that's why it's here and so loud. The bad places, the ones we perceive as bad, are the ones that are necessary. That's the purging. And so it's going to keep happening. It's going to keep happening as long as there are energies in my body, in our bodies, that can't stay for the future to unfold. This is going to keep coming up. But to me, it's been crucial in this last bout, in this 4 months, to know that it's anger. And like this horrible darkness in some way is anger. I need to move it from a symptom to an emotion. because emotions we can move, symptoms just sit. So if we can convert it to emotional energies, we can move it. That's assuming that the protector parts are not blocking it, we're at a place where we can work with those protector parts. But this is an extra long video because it's a big topic. But please let me know if there's something you want me to elaborate on or any suggestions, because there's so much to talk about in this subject. And again, I felt like it was really important to speak to in this moment in time because so many people are experiencing it. And just know that there is wisdom in there, and keep coming back to that idea that there is something here that is desperate to be seen. There's gold here. There is gold in the darkness. There's always gold in the darkness. But sometimes we have to spend a long time seeing nothing but dark before we find the gold. But you're not alone. If you would like one-on-one support, I'm here. You can book an appointment with me on my website, laurenvoorhees.com. My website is linked down below in the description. I hope that all of you are doing well. I'm sending you all so much love, and I will look forward to talking to you on the next video. Okay, take care. Bye.